Well, I'm going to present this in just simple common sense, layman's terms, more or less, using simple logic. I'm going to put this out here for food for thought. A lot in the alternative media, boy, they just worship Vladimir Putin. I'm going to state this. Vladimir Putin is New World Order. There's a whole charade going on here, and it should be pretty obvious, but maybe it's not obvious. So I'm going to put it in simplistic ways because, the more sometimes when you look at things in a detailed fashion, you can argue back and forth for umpteen hours, and you really don't get to the point. You can actually, sometimes when you look back and from a distance, you see the actual picture a lot better. Well, first off, let me put it to you this way. Vladimir Putin has been basically, effectively in control, of Russia since 2000. He was either the president or he was the prime minister, and then when Medvedev was the president and and then he switched roles again, pretty much everybody commonly perceived that Vladimir Putin was the man actually running the scene. So he's been in power since 2000. Here it is, 2014. He's going to be in power all the way up to 2018. Now, there's a bunch of Russian oligarchs with extreme amounts of wealth. As a matter of fact, the wealth disparity in Russia is more extreme than any developed nation or even semi-developed nation in the world. It's more extreme. In other words, you could say the United States is getting more and more wealth disparity, getting more skewed, where there's more money going into the 1 basis point, 1% of 1%. But in Russia, it's far more. It makes the USA look equal as all hell. I just want to point out that Japan is one of the more equal nations out there, Japanese, But, be that as it may, Vladimir Putin is always painted as like a reformer, a guy that's trying to fight corruption in the country, yet at the same time, he's held power all this time. You say, well, the people elected him. But the point is, there's so many things that go on in Russia as far as people disappearing. It's a dangerous profession to be a reporter, for one. That, don't think for a minute that Vladimir Putin is not serving the oligarchs. Don't think for a minute. It's my contention that this whole guy is just out there to actually, make them richer. He works for them, and he's basically one of them. But he's the face that you see. That's why I look at it. But I'm going to state this because I know maybe some ethnic Russians might be watching this. Ethnic Russians are getting screwed over by a charade this guy's playing. And, there's actually, what I think's coming up, to tell you the truth, is, well, you could see the global tension starting already over to Ukraine. But, there's a game going on. There's a game going on here big time. And, the game is actually being played against the Americans. It's being played against the Russians. It's being played against the Europeans. It's more or less, one of the things that really could put a monkey wrench or jam up the works for a new world order is nationalism. Like, for instance, a good example in Ukraine, it's being forced to either go choose the European Union or Russia. How about the third option? Only choose for the Ukraine. Only choose for the Ukraine. And, don't bother with the European Union, and you don't want to be part of the European Union, you don't want to be part of NATO, and you don't want to be part of Russia either. That's really one thing the globalists would hate. So, when this conflict is even going on in Ukraine, it's basically working for globalism no matter which side they choose. So the answer is don't choose a side. With Vladimir Putin now, it's become very obvious. I know it's allegedly he's got ties to Gunvor, which is an oil trading company based in Switzerland that's registered in Cyprus for the capital gains tax advantages. People try to bring this out and stuff, and it's like, no, it didn't happen. But, on the surface, if you freaking look at anything like his lifestyle, you have to figure this guy is not pissing off any of the oligarchs, because if he was pissing off the oligarchs in Russia, he'd be out of power a long time ago. This guy's going to have 18 years of straight power. That's a hell of a long time. So he's not just investigating him. And if you think the oligarchs in Russia got their money by just pure genius, that there's, they must be like the most smartest, they must be the smartest people on this earth or something, you got to be an idiot. They got their money because they're on the inside. And anybody that tries to get competition, that tries to compete with them, they get eliminated. Or if they get a company and it's going good, they get taken over. The way it would happen would be the Russian authorities would investigate a company for something or whatever. That would be Putin's role. Oh, you're corrupt, you're this, you're that. And then it would get taken over. That's the kind of game that goes on. Basically, Vladimir Putin is working for the oligarchs. And actually, you talk about the 1% and the 1% of the 1%, the 1 basis point. Well, actually, in Russia, there's 110 oligarchs that own 8/100,000ths of the wealth, 8/100,000ths of the population that own 35% of the wealth. 110 oligarchs, 110 people own 35% of the wealth. That's not the 1 basis point. That's the 1 basis point of 1 basis point. It's ridiculously skewed. And if you think for a minute that Vladimir Putin is trying to fight these guys, you're an idiot. But the reason it's quite obvious. He would never, ever be able to survive in his power position just by popular vote. No way in hell. They would have got him out. They would have killed him. You know what I'm saying? He would have been dead. He serves them. And what he's doing is he serves them by putting up a front to the Russian people about, he's a Christian and he's this and that and he's for moral authority against the corruption in the West. And actually what's going on is there's a game being played upon the entire population of this earth with this game, choose one side or the other. And in the West, I have to state this, that we have leaders like Obama, maybe is one of them. He's not the leader. He's not the real power. He's somebody we see that makes the speeches, somebody that's, policies are made behind the scenes. Maybe he agrees with the policies or not, but if he disagreed with the policies, there's too much scandalous content on this guy to bring him down in 2 seconds flat, so he goes along with whatever the policies are. The same with Hillary Clinton or whatever. The next election in the United States might be almost like the same kind of stuff that goes on in Russia. Basically, we got the old established teams fighting for power. Maybe it's going to be Jeb Bush. I know George Bush Jr. or George Bush II or whatever his name. I don't know how you say it exactly. But even the elder George H.W. Bush, they both want Jeb Bush to run for president. So here you're going to have Jeb Bush, another Bush candidate, another Bush family person running against the Hillary camp, the Clinton camp, whether it was Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or whatever. Even when Obama became president, Hillary Clinton became Secretary of State. So, it's like, my opinion is I'm voting for third party, but enough people won't do that. But I wish people would wake up, both in the United States and Russia, against the garbage that's being played. Because what I see is coming on is they're already constructing the scenario for World War III. I know the average Russian don't want that, the average American don't want that, but the elite want it. The elite want it. And out of the ashes, out of the confusion, comes a new system. What the new system is going to be, and this is all according to a Russian I respect, former KGB Major Anatoli Golitsyn, who defected in 1961, he stated that the Russian long-term goals, actually he stated back in the 70s to his memorandum to the CIA, that Russia was going to fall apart. It was all planned. It was planned that there would be glasnost, there would be perestroika, new restructuring, there would be solidarity in Poland, there would be the reunification of the Germanys, there would be the fall of the Berlin Wall. He stated this many years before it happened. He said it was a long-range strategic deception plan to befriend the West and gain knowledge and technology. But I have to disagree with one thing about Major Anatoli Golitsyn's assessment. Actually, it did come true all the way, but the New World Order is actually all part of this. It's actually part of the strategy of Russia is all in cahoots with the Western people, the Western real elite that are controlling the policies and the politics behind the scenes. One good example is, when General Hamm, Hamm, if I'm saying that correct, he was fired for going against the stand-down orders of, he was told to stand down in Benghazi when Christopher Story, the ambassador, was in big trouble there because of, the Muslim radicals were attacking. He was told to stand down. He was told not to help them. He ignored that order, and inside of minutes, he was relieved of command. Right? That was General Hamm, Hamm. Now, nobody in Congress questioned who relieved him, because it wasn't Hillary Clinton and it wasn't Obama. It was somebody else. And, you have to question is who relieved him, and then who told that guy to, where did the actual decisions start? And then you're freaking going to find out exactly where the actual policy and the New World Order is actually in the United States. It's not even with the political leaders we see. It's the same thing in Russia with Vladimir Putin. But what's going on here in the United States, where people are maybe mad at the current situation, they don't like the situation, and there's something wrong, and it's like, this is going bad for us and all this. They get behind Vladimir Putin like he's a better alternative. He's not. It's the same game. I mean, he goes to church, he plays like the moral thing and everything, fine. But it's just a game. It's a game. It's like pick your team. You got two choices. It's almost like the presidential election in the United States. We're going to have Bush and Clinton. I ain't picking either one of them. I don't give a damn. Maybe I'll pick somebody in the Republican team if it's somebody that's coming from the outside, But more likely it's not going to be. I'll be a third-party candidate. I'll go for a third-party candidate all the way. But what I'm saying is, the whole game with this New World Order is a charade of putting like false opposition up there. You look at Max Kaiser. He's one of the big famous commentators out there, or whatever the hell it is. I want to go a little pretty easy on Alex Jones in some ways, because some stuff he puts out there isn't bad. I got mixed with him. I think he's just maybe somebody trying to be, I don't know what the hell it is with him, but somebody like, say, for instance, Mike Rivero or Max Kaiser, or somebody like that, or even Jared Salente. It's almost like you never hear any criticism of Russia from those people. Period. Vladimir Putin's a saint. This is what I call controlled opposition. It's almost like the same deal when we have the presidential election. Say you don't like Obama, you don't want Hillary Clinton to be president, you go with Jeb Bush. What the hell is that? What kind of choice is that? What is this garbage where the Bush family has, the daddy, Big Daddy Bush is, president, and then you got Junior gets to be president, then his brother is going to run for president. That's a crock of garbage, man. That's an oligarchy to the max. But who's allowing this oligarchy? The people. And what's going on in Russia? There's an oligarchy to the max. What do you think's going on with Putin? You think this guy is against the oligarchs? Hell no. He's against certain people that may be coming out from the outside that are challenging the oligarchs, and he slams them, and it's like a big thing. Oh, I stopped corruption. You know what? The biggest guys in Russia, he serves. He keeps the competition away from them. He makes sure the biggest guys ain't gonna fall. I can call that a mafia thing, but it's going on. You got garbage like that going on in the United States. But actually in Russia, it's far more skewed than any country in the world, except for, any larger country in the world. There might be some smaller country someplace that, that has even more corruption than Russia. But any of the larger countries in the world, Russia by far has more disparity of wealth than anybody. And you know who's running that show? Vladimir Putin. You could say, oh, he can only do so much. He's part of it. He's part of it. If he was actually trying to fight it, he wouldn't be in power. Don't tell me the people elected this guy. And you know why? Because he controls the press. He controls everything. In other words, if he controls everything, he can actually stop the oligarchs. But he serves the oligarchs. He serves the oligarchs. So I'm going to say this. He's New World Order. And what's going on here is we're being presented a choice. This team or that team. And people are getting on that. And I'm saying is, don't choose either one of them. Don't choose either one of them. The only thing I would stick with in the United States is not just the Constitution, the law of the land, but the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights as the law of the land. Because actually, that is a big stumbling block. Even though it's ignored and all this kind of garbage, it's still the law of the land. There's no place else on this earth that actually has the Bill of Rights the way it is embodied in the U.S. law, federal law, at the top level, at the constitutional level, the way it is in the United States. And that has been a big stumbling block for the New World Order to the max. But what they're presenting overall, I think, is going to be, and this is what Major Golitsyn says, where I'm getting, and I can see what's going on. They're moving more and more towards socialism in the United States and in Europe, but at the same time, Russia is moving more towards capitalism. But what the ultimate system is going to be is a hybrid type of capitalism and socialism and communism, just mixed, but still with a ruling elite. And it's not going to be good. I'm going to say this, what really stifles competition is government regulations. And you notice the government regulations only come out for the competition to the elite. It happens that way in the United States too. It happens that way in Russia too. It's like Vladimir Putin will slam any upstart company, or if an upstart company comes up with a new idea and they're doing very, very well, they'll find a way to freaking take them over, and it'll go to one of the oligarchs. And, whether it's they'll force them out one way or the other. They'll force them out. I don't want to say anything specific about that, but there's been a number of instances. Also, you'll see the same kind of garbage goes on in the United States, too. And, you can actually even state that even with the drug cartel, that has the blessing of the big banks. Basically, the big banks are involved in that in the West, and government's involved in it. Certain elements of the government are involved in it. Even with the drug cartel, there's certain, it's like, everybody I knew in the military that worked with the Drug Enforcement Agency said that there was certain things they were supposed to do and certain things they were supposed to ignore. So, there's certain drug operations, even though all of it's illegal, there's certain drug operations in the United States that are basically part of, the established regime that's behind the scenes, it's behind the political system, and a lot of that feeds the black ops budgets for the military. So actually, as a person, as an individual, you should always not support that function in any way. There's too many people, I don't know what the deal is with the drugs problem in the United States. You should never support that function in any way, shape, or form. Actually, if all the people did that, the problem would go away. We can actually destroy the New World Order on individual effort, but it takes everybody getting on board. And it doesn't take somebody getting board, A team or B team. Choose neither. Stick with the Bill of Rights. It's like we get this garbage where we're supposed to be, we're fed up with something going on in the U.S. government, and, the alternative media is presenting Vladimir Putin as the choice. You know what? Neither one. Because they are both sides are working for the New World Order. So what I say is reject it. A good example of how this is all being played out is in the Ukraine, because Ukraine is actually getting almost like forced between the EU and NATO or something like that, and Russia. It should be just the Ukraine. But that option is something that the New World Order does not want. And it could be a precursor to World War III. Actually, World War III, I think, is in the plans. It's in the plans. It's just not going to come up right away. I think the precursor to World War III is, if I want to put this out here, is total economic collapse in the West. When there's real problems, a lot of dissent, and a lot of protest, there's a lot of calamity, a lot of division in the United States. That's when the crap will start, for real. And actually, that's something that Major Anatoli Golitsyn has said, a guy that actually has been correct on pretty much all his predictions, but it's a very slow-moving thing. It's not something that happens right away. But it may happen now. It's been going for quite some time. If we look at some of the markets in the United States, they're getting top-heavy maybe within the next year, or maybe very less than that. Maybe within the Obama term, we'll see a major correction in the markets, and which will cause severe stimulus by the Federal Reserve and unleash rampant inflation to the middle class. So the way around it actually is to go old school all the way. That's one advantage the Russians have over the Americans, because a lot of the Russians know how to farm. A lot of the Russians are old school all the way as it is. A lot of the Americans are not. That's unfortunate. But we both have a common enemy, and that's called the New World Order. The New World Order is represented by, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, and Vladimir Putin. All of them. The solution is to reject all of that garbage and stay independent.